Welcome to the Gamecast. This is Mark, your host from Pix in Motion, joined by Greg from Pixel Play Cafe. Today marks the third entry into our mini-series, Launch Games. And today's game is another Xbox 360 launch game. That would be Perfect Dark Zero by Rare. And so, Greg, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, this is going to sound like an echo, but man, this is a great GameCube game.
You know what? Hell, let's dive into these GameCube games.
I say that is similar to why I said that about Cameo, and it feels like a game meant for the GameCube, like down to the controls and everything. It looks a lot like one, just with a little bit better textures and resolution, obviously. But what's interesting to me is that this feels like, control-wise and gameplay-wise, it feels like a really good evolution from the original Perfect Dark on the N64 had Halo not been a thing. I think Halo is the reason why this game comes off feeling a little clunky and outdated, even back when it came out. And I think that had this game launched on the GameCube, where there was no Halo, I think it would have been a whole lot more popular than it was on the 360.
Well, I think it would have too, simply because of Perfect Dark from the N64.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing where Nintendo gamers, GameCube gamers specifically, did not have like a flagship first-person shooter that was like a competitive thing. Like Metroid Prime doesn't really count because it's an adventure game. There's some third-party things like Time Splitters and stuff that definitely scratch that itch, but by and large, they didn't have anything to call their own, that you could only get on GameCube. That was an awesome multiplayer experience, like GoldenEye was and the original Perfect Dark was for that N64. So had this system, or had the GameCube saw this game in its lifetime, I think it would have been actually a whole lot better received. But instead, it came out after Halo 2 had already been a thing, and online gaming had started to take over, and first-person shooters on consoles had been revolutionized by said game.
It says here on Wikipedia that it did start development on GameCube, and with a small team of 10 people. They said it was basically prototyping, finding out where they could go and how they could get there. And then when Microsoft purchased them in 2002, the project was transferred to the Xbox. And
oh my word!
Then they said the game's multiplayer mode was redesigned for Xbox Live. And then they had, at one point, got 50 players online at the same time. But they said the graphics couldn't handle that, so they had, they didn't do it. And then it was pushed to. They said the initial version of the game pushed the Xbox too hard, so eventually it was transferred to the 360. And I just don't know that I buy that.
I can see it because a lot of the textures you see in this game were things you saw here and there on the original Xbox. Like all the wet textures are what come to mind. Like I remember seeing them here and there in like Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, or like Doom had some pretty good texture and lighting work going on. But by and large, you really didn't see that kind of stuff on the original Xbox. So, I think
Well,
so.
okay.
I think,
So here in the development portion here, and this is actually why it would have been pushing the system a bit harder. Um, okay, so they're saying that the game's engine employs advanced graphic techniques that it was possible in the previous. Well, okay, maybe they're wrong here, but it was saying it was possible in the previous generation, including parallax mapping, ambient occlusion, subsurface scattering, and high dynamic range. I think the original Xbox was able to do that, but just didn't really have the horsepower to do all of it. And I know this game has all of it because they wanted to show the power of the 360. That could be why, though, why they ended up pushing it out. But having them push it out like that, like you said, all the other first-person shooters revolutionized how we played them. And this game just didn't follow suit. It kind of stuck with the old ways. So
yeah. Now, just to reiterate, though, it definitely feels like an evolution from the original Perfect Dark.
oh yeah,
to like a step up beyond that, like it should.
Yeah, it's definitely, in terms of that, it's next gen for sure. But like you're saying, when you compare it to even Halo 2,
Yeah.
It just
Or Halo 1.
Sure, yeah.
That's where the controversy lies, I think. Because I think there's other things that it does really well, but when you take that, I think that's the core of the problem, and you layer on the other things that people griped about, things like the new look for Joanna.
Yeah.
I think that people would have got over that had the game played more like Halo, more accessible like Halo. But instead, it didn't, and people latched on to frivolous things like the way Joanna looks and how the game, I don't know, just controlled kind of clunky. So that's not so frivolous, but I mean, given the context, it should not have happened on the 360. Had it come out on the original Xbox or the GameCube, I don't even think it would have been an issue whatsoever.
Yeah. Now, I mean, because visually, I do know, like, they're using the parallax mapping like everywhere. So like the bricks and everything are popping out like crazy, which the other terminology for it is virtual displacement mapping. Epic Games kind of coined that term when they announced Unreal Engine 3. Basically, parallax mapping, and they're the same thing. They make things look like they're popping out, and you can actually see depth and height and stuff from any direction.
Yeah, like normal maps too.
Well, normal mapping is similar. It
or bump mapping.
Well, bump mapping only works if you're looking head on. Normal mapping, you have approximately 180 degrees.
I see.
But then parallax mapping or virtual displacement mapping, the stuff actually like pops out. A good example is the Heaven benchmark with the dragon. Now I understand that that's actual displacement mapping that you can turn on because the graphics cards support that with tessellation. But virtual displacement would look similar to that, and like you could look at any angle, and that's kind of how it would be. So anyway, this game supports that like everywhere, and so I can understand why they would have done what they did. You also saw it in the bullet holes and the ricochets, and that actually is kind of a gripe I had with it because it's not flush with the walls. They like if you look up close, you can see through it. It's kind of, there's an error on the level designer or whoever put that in there.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I do like how this game has so much variety. It very much echoes the previous game in the series.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Where you have all the gadgets and everything. Like, it still feels like Joanna's James Bond as a girl. You know, with all these fancy gadgets and weapons and stuff. And that's awesome. I think that that's probably one of the best parts about this game that make it stand out in some ways above Resistance over on the PS3, which was also a launch title for that system.
Yep.
But it always comes back to the way it plays. Like, it just doesn't play very good. The enemy AI is kind of stupid.
Oh, big time.
But there's some other cool things in there. I noticed how the enemies would actually comment whenever, like, your clip would run out and you could try to fire and it just clicks. They would say, like, she's out of ammo. And it's like, oh, you think so, huh? Just give me a minute. But it's really cool to hear that. Like, they were aware of the context. Like, oh, hey, so-and-so ran out of ammo. Let's go now. And it's kind of cool.
Now, maybe you know this, and I could probably look it up, but what year was the original Perfect Dark supposed to take place in?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know when it was supposed to take place.
All right, let me look that up real fast, because this one, for Perfect Dark Zero, they're claiming 2020.
Okay.
And then, this is funny, I'm looking in the book here for the game, and it's saying that Joanna Dark was born 3/20/2000.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, because I know this is supposed to be a prequel.
Yep.
So let's check it out.
2030 maybe for the original. That's my guess.
Let's see. Would it be under plot?
Probably.
2023.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just 3 years later?
I guess so.
Okay. I don't know about that. I thought Joanna looked a little older in the N64 version.
Yeah, same here.
Whatever.
Maybe that's why they changed her. Because,
it's
supposed to be younger, but I don't know.
Well, I did want to comment too. There's another thing with the enemies that was kind of cool. And that was that as you shot them, parts of their armor would break off.
That was cool, actually.
That's pretty cool.
That's actually, that's something that we didn't really see a whole lot of until later, as far as games go. I know Unreal Engine 3 added that kind of stuff in, like with Gears of War 3, with destructible environments and stuff.
Oh, neat.
And some of the characters, like the armor and that would come off. And to think that this game had that first all those years ago, that's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, I do like the mood that the atmosphere that the game gives off too. It really feels like the original game in that way, and I mean that in a good way. The music I thought was really good, just like in the original.
Yeah, music's fantastic.
The graphics, I do like Joanna's new look. Now, I agree that she doesn't really look like a younger version of the Joanna we had in the first game.
Yeah.
But I do like the way they made her look.
If they would have had her hair be black, maybe it would have been okay.
I don't know.
I mean,
I kind of like it, but I know that's kind of controversial. Not a lot of people like the way.
Well, no, I personally I like this one better. I'm just saying that if they would have had the hair black, then maybe people wouldn't have complained so much.
Yeah. But I think that. Okay, well, actually, I have one more thing on my pros list, which I thought was just a neat thing, and that's if you go into the display options of all things, you can actually choose what kind of display you have, and it'll adjust the brightness or gamma or whatever of the game to fit your display type.
Really?
Yeah, so you can change it to like LCD or DLP or CRT or whatever.
No, that's pretty
in the
awesome.
options menu, and it adjusts the brightness. It's kind of interesting. I put it to LCD for obvious reasons at first, but I ended up changing it to CRT because it was a brighter picture that way. But
Plus, you're on a 4K screen, so
yeah,
with your HDR, that might actually be better.
well, there's no.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying if because the CRT, it's
Yeah, well, my contrast ratio is really high, so yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah. I'll have to check that out myself with my plasma display and see if that'll do something different.
I believe it was set to CRT or whatever they call it in the game. I don't think it says CRT; it's something else, but I believe that was set by default. So you might already been using it.
Oh well, okay.
Now, unfortunately, that's pretty much the end of my list of pros for this game.
So,
yeah.
Let's hear the cons.
Well, we already mentioned the controls.
Yeah,
they're way too stiff, and it feels off. Like, you ever played a first-person shooter on the GameCube?
Well,
not Metroid, first-person shooter. Time Splitters or Red Faction 2?
No, because I had a GameCube, but most games I got on the Xbox because better graphics.
Yeah. Well, I will say, as somebody who had Time Splitters 2 back in the day, the GameCube controller not so good for it. The C stick was a big problem for me because it's so small, it's a little nub.
Yeah.
And
I never understood that, to be honest.
No, me either. And then the main analog stick, which I'm going to get hate for, but I don't like that it snaps to those 8 different directions. I kind of prefer the circle. if you have a game,
I understand.
Handy, you know what I'm talking about.
I understand what you're talking about. I actually kind of agree.
This game feels like it was probably like controls were made with the GameCube controller in mind. Like, I really think so, because it kind of feels like Time Splitters did on the GameCube and stuff. Not my cup of tea at all. Another issue I found was that the sound mix is way off. You can rarely hear like conversations and NPCs talking to you over the music. Like, the music is so damn loud.
So in other words, in the options, you probably should change some volume settings.
Probably, but the fact that you would even have to think about that is kind of a problem.
It is
in and of itself.
Yeah.
I noticed that the shotgun is super overpowered.
Yeah, that's my go-to gun.
I ended up, by the time I was playing through and I got the shotgun and I picked up some other gun, I shot it twice maybe. I was like, man, this sucks compared to the shotgun. Went back to the shotgun, was sniping like a pro. That should sound totally wrong, because it is. Sniping with a shotgun. So, yeah, they need to work on the balancing of the weapons a little bit, I would say. The stealth in the game is like almost non-existent. They kind of put it there with that cover mechanic and stuff, but it's kind of pointless. You can literally just shoot everybody and not worry about stealth for the most part. It doesn't actually affect anything, as far as I know. I don't know. I tried to sneak at one point, and I didn't even like get within the line of sight of an enemy, and he set off an alarm. Like, he could see me through a wall or something. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna kill everyone.
So this is a bit strange for me because I feel way opposite of what I'm about to show you here. Metacritic, 97 out of 100.
Ooh, okay.
Game rankings, 95%. Now, here's where our publications are. I don't know this one. All Game. I don't know that, but that's 4.5 stars. Edge, 9 out of 10. EGM, 29.5 out of 30. Game Revolution, A minus. Game Pro, 5 stars. GameSpot, 9.9 out of 10. IGN, 9.8 out of 10.
Goodness.
N64 Magazine, wow, 96%. Nintendo Power, 9.6 out of 10. You kidding me? Nintendo Power would review
That
that?
has to be a misprint
Maybe.
or mistype, I suppose.
I don't know. This is for
Nintendo only did Nintendo stuff. It was a giant advertisement magazine.
Okay, you know what? They had it's okay. I see what's going on here.
Original Perfect Dark mixed
Yeah,
in.
yeah. So all those scores were the original Perfect Dark. So let's
Well, that's a good comparison because
yeah, let me okay. So that's fine. I don't know why they would do it that way, but okay. So okay. Oh, okay, this is more like it. But there's actually, you know what? No. What the hell? Okay, Metacritic, 81 out of 100. That's probably, even for me, that's still too high. OneUp.com gave it an A. Edge, 7 out of 10. Eurogamer, 7 out of 10. Game Informer, 7 out of 10. GameSpot, 9 out of 10. GameSpy, 4 out of 5. Game Trailers, 9 out of 10. Game Zone, don't know who that is, 9 out of 10. IGN, 8.4 out of 10. And then this is the one that is more in line with me. Game Critics, 6 out of 10. So, yeah, not quite as good as the original, but they still scored it pretty high for, I think, what it is.
I would say a 7 out of 10 seems about right. I haven't played through the whole game, so I can't definitively say, but
well, I beat the game when I first got it back in the day. Obviously, for the footage, I just played enough to cover our footage. I don't know. It's one of those games for me that if I wasn't a collector, I would have gotten rid of it.
Wow.
I just didn't like it enough. Like, I beat the game and then that was it. I didn't want to play it no more. There was no replay value for me at all. It was more like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to playing Halo. In this case, it would have been Halo 2.
I don't know. Like, of the games for this little mini series, I enjoyed this and Resistance probably the most, and Cameo the least.
Yeah. Well,
it's not great. Obviously, I just listed off a bunch of cons, but I don't know. Like, I think there's still something to it. Maybe it doesn't hold up after I play farther into it, though. I kind of have that feeling that, you know, I play another 2 levels or 3 levels and it's going to start to wear a little thin, but...
Well, you know, it's kind of funny. The story for the game takes place in 2020, and here we are coming up to 2020. So you got all these gadgets and futuristic type things, and it's like, let's compare it to what we have now. Hardly none of it. I mean, like, there really isn't any of that stuff that they kind of, you know, predicted we might have. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I doubt they were going for realism, though. I just can't imagine.
Well, the first game was, you know, like, probably more realistic than this one.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah.
And apparently only 3 years more in the future.
Yeah, I would have thought like 10 years, but what do I know?
Well, apparently we don't know anything.
Now, is this a series you think Microsoft should tackle again?
I do, but obviously I wouldn't follow suit with this game. I would maybe just start fresh.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, just do it called Perfect Dark and, you know, complete Not even not a remaster or anything, but just 100% brand new.
Yeah, and of all the studios they recently purchased, who would make this game?
Well, let's see. I mean, it is a Rare title. If they don't develop it, they should at least be involved in the story. God, I don't even really know. You know, it'd be cool. Have Ninja Theory do it. They're really good with storytelling.
Well, that's true. I would have said probably Obsidian, because they did the Alpha Protocol game that was kind of Mass Effect but with spies.
Yeah.
And it has a cult following. It wasn't a super well received game, but there are people who really love it. It seems
now that was just given away for free on Xbox Live, wasn't it?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to.
I'm trying to. No, I'm thinking of Two Human. Never mind.
Oh yeah. But honestly, like a lot of those developers they just acquired probably could do it pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they could just give it to 343 or the Coalition. Even they would do plenty fine. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I think if you gave it to one of the others, and then had 343 give them the Halo engine, you'd be set.
Yeah.
I mean, the new Halo, I'm sure it's going to be quite gorgeous.
Yeah, and have them help with the multiplayer aspects, of course.
Absolutely, because you'd want that to be top notch.
Yep. Well,
I think that's that might do it actually.
Yeah. It's fun playing these games.
Maybe.
I have to say it was fun to see, because I think going into this I expected probably the least. I expected the least from Resistance, to be honest, because I just remember looking at it when I first bought the first game, and it just being underwhelmed by the graphics and stuff and the controls.
Yeah.
But it's funny how it kind of flipped the total opposite direction, where that's the best game of these three that I played, I think. And
well, I will agree with that.
I thought Cameo was going to be my favorite at the end of this, but
I was hoping it would be for me, but being that I've already played through Resistance, like I knew what I was getting into, and I think like if I were to base the games on their flaws, I would go Resistance first, then Cameo, and then Perfect Dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would probably go, I don't know, Resistance, Perfect Dark, Cameo. I think Cameo's kind of a mess overall. So it has some great ideas, just a mess otherwise. And Perfect Dark, not a whole lot better. I do think it is a little bit better, though. It's just, it feels like a generation behind.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it. It is interesting, though. Like I'm looking here, marketing and release for Perfect Dark Zero. They're saying it made its first appearance at Space World 2000, which was Nintendo's trade show back in the day.
Yeah.
I wish they'd bring that back.
Yeah, they have Nintendo Direct now.
Yeah, and I'm sure that cost them a heck of a lot less, but let's see here. Well, they're saying that like the name, they didn't know what the name was going to be at the time. There's trademark names that were, let's see, After Dark, Perfect Dark Evolution, and then the phrase "shot in the dark." I'm kind of glad not. Well, Perfect Dark Evolution could have worked. In fact, if Microsoft did a new one, they could use that.
I think that sounds super generic. I think After Dark sounds like way better of those names.
Just to me, that sounds more like a horror film.
Hey, that's cool. A horror spy game. There you go.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There's none of those.
And then they're saying that the next year at E3 in 2001, Nintendo advertised the title as Perfect Dark Zero on the list of upcoming GameCube releases. But it was quickly removed. And in 2002, the release was pushed back to 2004 due to internal team problems at Rare.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, looking at this whole situation with both Cameo and this game, it's easy to see how Rare fell from grace so fast and so hard. Because could you imagine working at a studio that had to change development of multiple games to like three different platforms, like within a couple of years? Like that would just be awful. Just going from N64 to GameCube, then to Xbox, then over to the 360 finally. It's like there's no way that game was going to turn out good.
Yeah.
Even after just switching one system would have been questionable. So it's kind of a shame, but
oh my. Okay, so this game, the other launch titles for the 360 was Call of Duty 2.
Oh.
And I know for a fact that that game was incredible.
Yeah.
Like the way it controlled and everything. So if you compared that with this,
no contest.
no, and I tell you what, I bought Call of Duty 2 on release. So that could also be why I didn't really care for it too much.
Yeah, Call of Duty 2 was really, really impressive in its time.
It was right on par, if not better, than the PC version when it first came out.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that kind of hardware, where the games are better than the PC. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Oh, that's crazy. Perfect Dark Zero became the second best-selling 360 game with roughly 15,000 units sold, behind Namco's Ridge Racer 6.
Wow.
But that's on the Japanese launch.
Oh.
Which is even crazier. Because that's in Japan.
Yeah, well, Japan didn't really take to the Xbox brand.
No, but it's still selling 15,000 of those?
Yeah.
On the launch day?
I don't know. That's not that many. I mean,
no, but in Japan it is. That's my point. That's crazy, especially when like a lot of games these days on Xbox over there, you're selling only a few hundred. 15,000 is pretty huge.
Yeah. Well, we got Xbox. They got the PC engine. So.
Yeah. Well.
We technically did get that, but not really.
What's that? TurboGrafx 16?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Anyway, I think that's all we got for this. So, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you'll join us next time. With all that being said, thanks for stopping by. Please share, subscribe, and all that. And like always, happy gaming.